Ever wondered what happens to your superannuation once you return to your home country? Ever wondered whether people saying you'll only get half back, what that means? Have you ever wondered whether you'll get your superannuation back at all? Well, I'm here to explain these myths. That is my job in this video, per the guidance set out. So, who am I and why am I here telling you this story? My name's Tally. I am working in a financial services firm. I'm passionate about upskilling my own financial literacy and along the way helping others that may have queries. Superannuation, for those that need the quick intro, is a system that is Australia specific that takes 12% of your income that you receive in your pay cycle, and it contributes it towards a fund that is untouchable until you reach preservation age. However, there are conditions upon release, as I'll go through in this video, and another thing to note is you can't opt in or opt out. It's just mandatory. It's automatically something you opt in if you're working in Australia. If you're still interested about this video and what I could tell you, stay tuned for more. Well, so now that I've introduced myself, the people that are most applicable to this video are those that are temporary residents of Australia returning to their home country. So these people are not a permanent resident of Australia or an Australian citizen, or not a New Zealand citizen for the purposes of this video. Able to be refunded back your super prior to preservation age, less the tax. So when should I start the process? So I recommend starting the process prior to leaving back to your own home country. You can simply start the process and then press save on the application. But you can't press apply until you've returned to your home country and your visa has expired / cancelled. So how does that work exactly? So it just means that you might have a hard time in obtaining all the information once you're back to your home country. You wouldn't want to leave having to call and back and forward once you're in that home country, because Australian businesses would be following Australian times and call times. So now that you've established that you want to start the process early onshore, I'll list a few things that you need to have on hand prior to starting your application. These are your name, your date of birth, and other personal details. Your email address, very important for contacting if there's an issue in your application. Your passport country, your passport number, your Australian tax file number, and your superannuation account details. So this includes the Australian business number of your super fund that you hold your superannuation with, or super funds if you have multiple. And you can also use the system to conduct a search for the ABN on the fund's name. And then lastly, you'll need your Australian bank account open. So once you've returned to left the country, it's advisable to keep that bank account open. And that's the first step. So the first step I would say is that your Australian bank account will remain open once you leave. Let your bank account, Australian bank, let you know that you've gone back overseas, but that you want to keep it open. The second step is to locate your superannuation. Like many Australians or other holiday makers or temporary residents, you may have had multiple casual jobs, part-time jobs, different states, territories, you name it, whilst in Australia. This means that if you didn't nominate a particular super fund upon starting with that, employer would then have paid your superannuation to their default fund, which may or may not be the same fund that you had a previous job with. And what that does is it creates two different superannuation accounts for two funds, and so you've got two different amounts from the different employers. What that means is that you're also paying double the fees. It's probably a good thing to locate each of these accounts prior to, filling out the form, because you don't know what super funds you need to nominate on the form and find the ABN, the Australian business number. So if you're like some people, you may need some help in these super funds. And Australia has actually built some tools to make sure that you can be able to easily find this. So the first tool is the DASP online application. Has an external link. You could search for funds using your TFN. Another way is through the ATO online services or the ATO app. You can log in and you can search for your different super funds that have your TFN nominated. And then thirdly, by phoning ATO, I guess, try and work out different superannuation that you hold. Again, you could see why this process, if you haven't been keeping a methodical, documented, whilst in Australia, this would create a lot of admin if you're trying to do this offshore, and without the help and support of operators in normal business hours, this could become quite tricky. What I'd recommend is if you do find yourself with numerous superannuation funds, even if you haven't left Australia, I would recommend merging that. And it's a simple button on the ATO website. So once you've logged into your ATO portal, can then merge your superannuation. It's quite easy. It's something that meant to be there to help everyone their super as can get quite out of hand. Then once you've consolidated that, then you've effectively got one fund to put on that form. The third step is ensure all required superannuation payments have been made to your prior to the form. So prior to the 1st of July 2026, it was a requirement for firms or employers to pay superannuation quarterly. From the 1st of July 2026 onwards, it's a requirement of employers to pay your superannuation in line with your pay cycle. So whether that's weekly, monthly, fortnightly, etc. What I find is that your smaller employers likely, it's quite them to be able to have to process everyone's superannuation. And also it might be a cash flow thing where they've kept the money onshore and then they just do it upload to everyone's be a timing thing. So if you're really gung-ho and you're doing it a month after you've just left, or even 2 months after, it's likely that you have missed the third quarterly payment that would have then been allocated to your account. And that would be sad to miss out on that money. So try and make sure that you've checked all your superannuations are up to date in each of the different accounts. Even if it was made a year ago, it's always great to just make sure that the employer did comply with the law and has paid all your superannuation. And if there is issues, you could report. There's an online tool to report unpaid superannuation contributions from my employer on the ATO website. So that's quite handy there. And then the fourth step is apply using the DASP online or paper form. So you've got all your details, got your super nominated. Now it's time to use the online portal or the paper form. If for any reason you're unable to lodge it yourself, I do believe there's a way to nominate for someone else, but hopefully you are able to do this early and have it done. So when you first use the DASP online application system, you'll be asked to create a shared secret by selecting and answering a question. Now, this shared secret is important because we want to be applying for it onshore, and then once you've left offshore and the visa requirements are cancelled or expired and you can withdraw your super, that's when you want to be pressing submit. So all this hard work won't be worth it doing it prior to leaving if you're not able to remember that shared secret. So whenever you revisit the system, you'll need to answer that question correctly. Now I'm going to put up on screen some of the tax brackets. So whether you're a working holiday maker means that you'd be taxed at 65%. That's the taxed element and the untaxed element. And then if you're a non-working holiday maker, you'd be taxed at 45%. Again, this does not apply to PR, Australian or New Zealand citizens. So this is just working holiday makers or people on temporary residence. If you're sitting there wondering, what is a working holiday? That is the 417, 462, and any bridging visas associated with that. That means that if you've ever held one of those visas, you are therefore taxed at the working holiday visa. So if you, for example, came to Australia, worked for 6 months on a working holiday visa, then got sponsored, you're on a different visa, doesn't matter. If you leave this country and apply through the DASP, they have nominated that you at one stage were a working holiday maker and therefore will be taxed at 65%. So it should not be, I guess, hopefully not to you because you're watching this video, and hopefully you're then understanding the implications of how much your salary, 12% of your salary gets paid to superannuation, and then on top of that, 65% of it never gets returned to that of superannuation. So that's quite a number, but also just, yeah, important to understand that. The DASP maker rate will also apply to the entire superannuation balance, not just the amount of per that employer that had working holiday maker tagged to it. It's your entire balance. So once you've entered your details and you're happy that they're all up to date, press save, and you'll then submit once you're back in your home country or when your visa ceases. So the fifth step is to check if your visa is still active. So visit check visa conditions online at vivahomeaffairs.gov.au. If that's all cleared and very confident that that visa's all done, you can press submit. So what's next? So if you're wondering, now I've done all my submission, I know that I'm going to get some funds back. The next step is to, you'll probably likely get within 28 days and get money back in 3 ways. You could get it through EFT to an Australian bank account. You could get it from an Australian dollar check. Do not recommend. That would be going via post and take forever. Or an international money transfer, but that's only for application to super funds directly. So all super funds offer IMT, and there's fees and charges associated with that. It sounds like a hassle, and I would not recommend that. So EFT is usually the most effective payment method, and that's why it's important to keep your account open. And then for ATO held super, so if you're moved to the ATO for whatever reason, you could only choose EFT to an Australian bank account in your name or a check. There is no IMT. So from this closing statement, I would like to say that I hope you learned a lot from this video and the implications of your superannuation if you were to leave Australia, if you had been a resident of Australia. Also, I'd hope you weigh up your priorities. If, for example, you're to Australia to help set you up when you go back home, that's an important consideration given that it's quite a large sum of your money taken from you. And yeah, or if you want to learn a bit more about superannuation and what it was, you can check out my video linked here, and that will have all the information you need to be able to understand superannuation. Thank you. Ever wondered what happens to your superannuation once you return to your home country? Ever wondered whether people saying you'll only get half back, what that means? Have you ever wondered whether you'll get your superannuation back at all? Well, I'm here to explain these myths. That is my job in this video, per the guidance set out. So who am I and why am I here telling you this story? My name's Tally. I am working in a financial services firm. I'm passionate about upskilling my own financial literacy and along the way helping others that may have queries. Superannuation, for those that need the quick intro, is a system that is Australia specific that takes 12% of your income that you receive in your pay cycle, and it contributes it towards a fund that is untouchable until you reach preservation age. However, there are conditions upon release, as I'll go through in this video. And another thing to note is you can't opt in or opt out. It's just mandatory. it's automatically something you opt in if you're working in Australia. If you're still interested about this video and what I could tell you, stay tuned for more.